So let's continue. We have an amazing tip of the week. The first release of the Brilliant Directories API has now been released. If you're a developer, you can work with the API directly, but for beginners and novices, you can use simple tools such as Zapier for the ability to import data into your website. And this first iteration allows you to create member records into your site. So you can use forms and surveys and feeds to create new member records into your Brilliant Directories website. In this example, we're going to show you how to utilize Google Forms. And David, I'm very excited about this. If it's all right with you, may I pass it over and you can kind of take us through the ins and outs of this new update for us.
Absolutely. This is a long-awaited update and feature that we're pushing here today with the API release. As Jason mentioned, what you can do with it right now is create new member records from external sources. So this is as of August 2022. In the future updates, external sources can read member data from your database, update existing member data, as well as delete member records. So right now, we can only create new members on our BD website from external sources. In the future, we'll be able to edit and delete member records. And then past that, we'll be able to do the same with member leads, member reviews, as well as all of the different kinds of posts that you have on your website. So one of the most requested ways to utilize this would be to import property listings. So there's a lot of functionality, and this really kind of opens the floodgates in terms of the possibilities with where you get your website data from and how you can manage your data.
Yeah, and the term API can be a little daunting for some people. It definitely is something that developers and coders will want to use directly. However, there are intermediary tools such as Zapier, which make this a point and click situation. So without doing any coding at all the magic and benefits of creating member records in this example can be done without any coding required. So it's really super cool. And once you just get over that simple hurdle of knowing how to use Zapier, this becomes super easy for everyone.
Absolutely. And so continuing on with that theme with webhooks, we've talked a lot about webhooks, and we've done a few different tips of the week video tutorials on how to utilize webhooks to increase the functionality and automate some workflows on your Brilliant Directories website. So let's briefly talk about what the difference is between the Brilliant Directories API and webhooks. When would you use either one? So when we're talking about the BD API, again, right now, this would be used to create member records on your BD website from external sources. So you can create and use an API key to do that. You don't need any webhook for this. If you remember, or if you've watched our previous videos with regards to webhooks, you know that when you create a new workflow, you copy a webhook URL, and then you paste that webhook URL into your website's admin area. So you wouldn't need to do that in this case. However, you can still use the API key with platforms like Zapier. However, for developers, you can use the API totally independent from Zapier, Pabbly, things like that. So there's a lot more functionality for developers. However, you don't need to know any sort of coding. You don't need to have any background in utilizing APIs. All of it can still be used through platforms like Zapier. So when would you want to use webhooks? Well, you would still want to use webhooks when you're wanting to export data from your Brilliant Directories website to external platforms. So same as we showed in our previous tips of the week, exporting data and taking that data, sending it over to some other platform or service. Right now, you would still want to use webhooks to do that. And this will all, I think, make a little bit more sense as soon as we get into our example, showing you how this actually works in practice. But real quick, first, let's go over some use cases. So this might help get you in the mindset of when the API would be utilized and how it can really improve and expand the functionality of your website and how you manage your data. So again, current use case examples, this is keeping in mind that right now, August of 2022, we can only create new member records from external sources. So you can create a member record when somebody submits a form on an external website. You can also utilize third-party forms and survey platforms like SurveyMonkey to create member records. So you can actually create forms through other services and other platforms that are totally dedicated to forms. So they might have a lot more functionality and options for you to play with. And you can direct website visitors or individuals or businesses to those other forms that you create with these other services. They can fill out those forms, and that will automatically create a member account for them on your Brilliant Directories website. So looking down the line in the future, as we implement more features with the API, like I mentioned, you'd be able to do things like importing property listings from MLS data. I know this is a really popular use case and request that we've gotten. You can also import and manage leads that are acquired from external sources. Again, maybe this is from a form that was created using a different platform, a different service that's located on some other website, but you still want to bring those leads into your Brilliant Directories website and send them to your members. You can also import member reviews from external sources. You can also keep member data up to date based on the members' info from external sources. So maybe your members, if you have a business directory, maybe the businesses have information listed on third-party websites or somewhere else. You could keep member data up to date if they update their information on, say, one of your other online properties. You can also send website data to external sources for further processing, storage, things like that. The possibilities are really endless here, especially if you're working with a developer or you are a developer. You can utilize the Brilliant Directories API key with any platform really that you have access to. So this is really exciting, and it really opens up the possibilities with what you can do with your site and how you manage and acquire your data. So now let's see this in action. We're going to be automatically creating a member account from a Google Form submission. So pretty simple use case, but you should be able to understand how this will work in practice. Just some quick things to note, some required form fields, because again, we are creating essentially member accounts on our BD site. So we will need to have an email, a password, and a subscription ID for these member records. But other than that, it's a pretty simple process. Jason, if you want to take it away and walk us through this.
Absolutely. Super exciting here. So in this case, we're using one of the simplest form makers, which would be Google Forms. You can use any type of form creator, type form, Jot form, Ninja forms, WordPress forms, anything really. But in this case, we're using a free and very basic and simple tool, Google Forms, and we created a form called Become a Member. We made the email field required. That's a setting in the Google form. And in this case, we're just asking for 3 pieces of data: their first name, last name, and phone number. However, if we go back to the slide, as David mentioned, the only thing that's required is to set an email address, a password, and a subscription ID. So if we really wanted to in this Google form, we could just set the email address. The password, Google Forms is super basic and it doesn't really have ways to do password setup. So we're going to use Zapier to create a temporary password for the user and share that with them in their email. But if Jotform or Typeform or another solution has a field type for creating passwords, that would be ideal. And also the subscription ID is the membership plan that this member is going to be registered to. We're going to also manually set that in the Zapier workflow. We don't want the member to choose the plan that they're joining in this case. You could expand that later, but in this example, we're just going to set them to the subscription ID 3, membership plan 3. So we created this Google form. Some settings with this Google form. We went to the settings area. We're going to collect the email address. We just had a personal preference to send the responder a copy of their response is off. Requires sign in, like a Google sign in. We turn that off so they don't have to sign into a Google account just to fill out this form. And also in the presentation section, we did add a simple custom message. Again, Google Forms is super basic. It doesn't let you redirect the user to a thank you or success page. Perhaps one of those other solutions like Zoho Forms or Typeform would allow you to do that. In this case, we're instructing the person to check their email for our welcome kit. And we did include that in this workflow. We do send the person a welcome email after they fill out this Google form. And also just an additional one, disable autosave for all respondents. We turned that on. That we noticed with Google Forms that also didn't ask them to sign into their Google account just to fill in this form. So those are just some settings that we set up. Oh, lastly, in this default section under Google Forms, under form defaults, we did enter collect email address by default. This Google form is going to ask them for their email address. And what does this Google form look like? Because these are all the settings for them. It looks something like this. I'll go ahead and refresh this page. This is a Google form. You can share this link and have people register, but what's also cool is you can embed this form on any number of other websites that you may manage and have people sign up to your site using this form, which can be embedded on other websites that you manage. It doesn't have to now only be your Brilliant Directories website. So this is the form, and we even took it a step further, and we did take the embed link. So if we click send, and you can get the embed code just like a YouTube video embed, we copied this and we did embed it on a landing page on our website. So this is our webinar demo website, and we can see here we created just a very simple landing page. And here we can see that that form is right here. And we can see it's not asking us to log into our Google account because we turned those settings off. So why don't we go ahead and let me log out of here, and let's create a sample member. Let's go to our search members page in the admin area here. And you can see we've been doing some tests, but let's go ahead and do a sign up right now. We can see the current member is member 117. And let's sign up on the website here. And then we'll go into Zapier and show you how we created the workflow for this connection now that we've created a Google form. So I'll just go ahead and refresh this page one more time. And we'll just do jason11@jason.com. And the first name is Jason, Palusum, and 310. Okay, and we'll submit that. And we can see here it says, welcome to our community, check your email for our welcome kit. Now, I have to admit, it is a little underwhelming, the success message, but again, this is basic Google Forms, so they really don't do anything fancy. But now if we come to the admin area, we see the ID was 117. Okay, here we go. Member 118, and here's that phone number I put, 310-555-5555. So a member record has been created now onto the site. This can also work with Google Sheets and any other of the form or SurveyMonkey. Anywhere where you can get people to fill out a form, you can now add them as member records onto your site. So let's take a look at what we did in Zapier, and we've covered this in previous webinars. Zapier basically lets you string together several different types of solutions and platforms, and they can share information between each other. So just looking at it from a broad perspective here, we can see in this workflow, we have the Google form, which I created, so that's synced up here at the top. Zapier has a number formatter tool. So what we created was we generated a random 6-digit password, which is what we send them in their email after they sign up. So the user doesn't have to enter a password because Google Forms frowns on entering passwords and things like that. I understand why, but they don't have a dedicated password field type in the Google Forms tool. So we create a random 6-digit number, and then we connect all that data and we tell it to create a user in Brilliant Directories, and we create an API key, and we have it share that information to create a user, choose an account. We provide the domain name, and I'll show you how to generate an API key, and then the setup action, which is basically from that Google form, what information should be mapped under the newly created user on the Brilliant Directories website. So you can ask 100 questions on that custom sign-up form. You can ask one question, just the email address, and you can even have custom fields and conditional fields if you're using tools like Typeform or JotForm, and you can get a lot more specific as to how the sign-up experience is for users utilizing those other form solutions. In this case, very simply, we have the first name, the last name, the email address is mapped, the phone number field is mapped, and there are two other things that we want to set here. So the active field is the account status after someone fills out the form. The number 2 represents that it's going to be an active account status. So when someone fills out the form, their account will automatically be set to active, which is perfectly safe for a general user type of account, or a visitor who just needs an account to do things like bookmark their favorites and things like that. So 2 would be an active account, 1 would be inactive account. So if you want people to register but not have an active account, you would want to set this manually to 1. In this case, we're manually setting it to 2. And then also you want to define the subscription ID here. Now, if you're using a form where the member is kind of choosing their own subscription ID or what plan they're signing up to, this can be dynamic. In this case, I've hard-coded it and I've set it to 3. So anyone who's getting created using this workflow is going to be membership plan number 3. And on this website, I think it's called a local business listing, but you'd probably want them to be a general user or another free account type on your website. So this can be dynamic, or you can set it, the subscription ID, to 3. And the password is going to be set to that output that we created. This sounds a little confusing here, but if we scroll back up to the workflow here, so they fill out the Google form, and then numbers in formatter. This is a tool from Zapier, and basically what I'm having it do is pick a random number between 100,000 and 999,999, which is going to generate a random 6-digit number. And this is going to be the temporary password, the 6-digit code that we're going to assign to users. So what you would choose is numbers in formatter by Zapier, and spreadsheet style formula, and random between these two numbers here, and it will generate a random 6-digit number, and that's what we're going to set as the temporary password for the user. You might have other methods you might want to have them enter their password on the third-party form that they're entering, but this is the route we took with Google Forms. And then we use this, whatever random number is generated here, and we set that as the password field. Password field is the output, the random 6-digit number from there. So this creates the BD user on your website. We can continue to scroll down. You can see all the different fields that you can have filled out or manually set by you. And then what we're doing is we're sending an email using Zapier's Send Outbound email tool. Now you can have this come from Zapier's email tool. You can use Zapier to send a Gmail or an email from your MailChimp or another third-party platform, or any other email you have control over. We just use the simplest one here. And what we're doing is we're sending an email that says, "Hi, first name, welcome to our community." And we just say you can use the login link here. Here's your username and temporary password. We put the variables in this email, and we even let them know that they can reset their password anytime with this link here. So really simple email, and it says, please feel free to reach out if you need any additional assistance. And we put a reply to email here, in this case, events@brilliantdirectories.com. And that is really the end of the workflow here. And the trick here is when you're going to create the user in Brilliant Directories, I'm actually going to save and exit. I'm going to quickly reconstruct this just to show you the steps. I'm going to skip the number formatter step, and I'm going to show you how you can sync your Brilliant Directories site into a Zap. So let's create a Zap. And I'll continue using the Google Forms example. We can just search for forms here, and we can see how many different form solutions they have: Gravity Forms, WordPress Forms, Zoho Forms. All of these would work just the same. We'll stick with Google Forms. So a new form response, basically a new form submission, and they're going to ask you to sync your Google account. In this case, I'll do the most newest form that I created. And it's going to ask you which form, the Become a Member form. Okay, great. We can test the trigger. And it's going to get the last response. We found a form response. This is the last one that was filled out. So now we can do the next action. So in that, I'll just do the formatter step actually. So if we click on format, this is how I created the temporary password. The event, I chose numbers and I continued. And then the setup action, I did spreadsheet style formula, so I can use kind of spreadsheet codes to create something, and it says to put the formula in there. So is going to be a random number between 100,000 and 999,999,000. So we'll go ahead and we'll continue. And we'll test and review. We'll see if this is working. Okay, it gave us a random output, so this will be the temporary password value that we use for the members. And now we want to connect our Brilliant Directory site. So if we click on plus, we can search for Brilliant. And right now it's in beta mode because it's so new, but everyone should be able to use this. And the event we want to do is create user. There'll be a lot more events later this year. And it's going to ask us to choose an account. So let's connect a new account. This is what you'll want to do. So it says enter the website URL and your API key. So the website URL is pretty easy. We'll just go to visit website, and you want the URL of your site. If you change the URL of your site at any point, you're going to need to reconnect this. However, we can come here and enter the website URL here, and then it's asking for an API key, and this is what is new. So we can go ahead and generate an API key now. Let me show you where you can do that. From the dashboard area, we want to go to Developer Hub. And here we want to click on API key. And now that we're here, we can generate multiple API keys. In this case, we'll do generate API key. We can give it a nickname. We'll call this webinar demo. And here is the API key. It will only display it once to you. So if you ever need to reuse the API key, you're going to want to generate a new one once again. So we can go ahead and copy this to the clipboard. And we'll see here now we have two API keys, webinar demo. And if we come back here, we want to paste this API key in here, and it's going to see if it can make a valid connection with the domain and the website. And if we come back here, it looks like it was connected successfully, so we'll go to continue. And now it's the setup action. As I explained before, you can start mapping data between the Google form and the values that the member record is going to have in your Brilliant Directories website. So in this case, the first name can be the first name, so on and so forth. The active status, we want to set this, in my case, I want to set this to 2. These members are going to be set as active. And then also an important one, the subscription ID. Oops, let me do, it's easier to use the search here. So subscription ID, the membership plan. I want to set all these people who are filling out this form to be set to 3, which is the free sign up plan. And then lastly, the password field. I want to set this to be the randomly generated number from here, the output of the numbers in Formatter by Zapier. So I can just go ahead and scroll all the way down. Lots of fields you could have here. Continue. And I can add another field here. So we can do Gmail and send an email from my Gmail. We could do MailChimp. I don't know if they have a send out email thing, but there are a ton of email tools here. Email by Zapier is the most basic one, and it will send an email to the new person who signed up and in the example that I sent. So let's do one more sign up just to show you guys. Let me refresh this page, and let's actually see me getting the email from Zapier in this example here. So let's sign up. We have a sample email here, jasonmoore99@gmail.com. Okay, and 310-555-5555. Okay, it says welcome to our community. Let's go to the search members page. Let's see when that member is going to be created. Let's go back. Let's discard this draft. Let's go to the other one I had before. The other Zap, we can see the history of it. Here we go, become a member, Google Forms. Okay, so this is member ID 118. Let's see if member 119 is here now. Still processing. What's cool about the Zaps is you can see the history and see what's being processed still. Okay, this one says it was stopped. Let's find out why. Okay, this is great. So Jason Moore 99 is already an email in the system, and the advanced setting to allow duplicate emails is not enabled on that website. So it will prevent duplicate email signups onto the site. Again, Google Forms is very basic. It's just going to do the submission, but perhaps with a type form or a jot form, you can check the database to make sure that an email doesn't already exist that's being submitted. Let's go ahead and search for that email address here. And yeah, there is a record here, member number 42. Let's go ahead and delete this person and do that process one more time. So that's really good. If something doesn't get processed, it will show you where it gets stopped in the Zapier workflow. All right, let's refresh this page now. So we've removed that email address from the database record. Let's do it one more time. Okay, we'll set the name to Jason. And we'll submit that. Okay, great. Oh, here's the new record, ID number 119. The email is still here. Let's go back to search members. It did process that. Let's rerun this. Let's hit refresh again. There we go, success. So this was the one that was stopped, and this one went through the whole process. The whole thing was success, even sending the email out. Sent one new outbound email, and I have an email here. It's looking for emails. So this is that email that went out to the member. It says, welcome to my new website. You can log in below. Here's your temporary password, and so on and so forth. Looks like I processed this twice. However, we can see here that we have the ability to send an email. Again, this is the most basic stuff you can do with this. And all of it was done with just a few clicks without any coding really to set this up. Just a lot of pointing and clicking. And if you guys have questions on this, please ask in the Facebook group. We'd love to help you guys get this set up using third-party tools and solutions and other survey and form platforms out there. And yeah, what's really cool is I'm seeing this, the ability to have registration forms on other website properties that you might have, and even Facebook ads and Google ads now have the ability to collect, and LinkedIn ads have the ability to collect or have somebody fill out a lead form on your site, so you can have them register to the website directly from an ad click, potentially right through Facebook, LinkedIn, or Google ads. Those are newer things that I've seen with those platforms, but again, the ability to submit data using or create member records from third-party sources and feeds is now available, which should unlock a wealth of functionality and the ability to grow your communities a lot faster. The next things that we're excited to see is the ability to create member leads into your system. So again, if you have those third-party forms, you can have lead forms on other websites and have them feed into your Brilliant Directories website, as well as data posts such as blog articles, RSS feeds, property listing feeds. We'll see those in the coming months, coming soon. But for right now, you can create member records onto your website.